Alright, jumping straight into the first boss here. I already had my imp set on that platform. There's a big issue with pets on this boss, so I had my imp pre-positioned. That's why the boss pulled right away. The hunter pets are there as well. This pool's going great, as you can see. We're pumping, doing a lot of fucking damage. Really on par for a rank 1 parse. And then unfortunately, momentarily here, it goes south. Yeah, we get knocked off the platform. Not ideal. Didn't do a good job recovering from it. As you can see, lost quite a bit of DPS. Still able to finish with a 99, but group pumped it. In the future, I would like to probably jump on the beach instead of jump where I did here. Flipping to Ghamoo-ra now, the second boss. Love this boss as a Warlock. Takes huge fucking damage, as you're going to see here. We're pulling it in a good position. I really should have put my Rain of Fire down before I went to ML8, and I should have also cast Chaos Bolt first, but I was scared that the tanks wouldn't position it or would continue to move the boss. But as you can see here, I'm essentially spamming Incinerate, keeping my Rain of Fire, Lake of Fire debuff up for that 40% extra fire damage, and making sure I cast Chaos Bolt on cooldown. When this boss's shell explodes, he starts taking huge fucking damage, as you're going to see right here. We're going to see Incinerates hit for nearly 1,000. If your Chaos Bolt crits, it can hit for about 2,000 on this boss right here. Unfortunately, I didn't have any Chaos Bolt crits, but as you just seen, a 1,316 Chaos Bolt. It's pretty ridiculous. Pumping right now. Props to the tanks for being able to keep that aggro off. They were doing a great job taunting that boss back and forth. But the rest is history. We were able to hit over 300 DPS. I was able to get the rank 1 parse on this boss. Unfortunately, just later that night, another Warlock just barely beat me out, so props to him, but still a great pull. A couple things we could have done better. Transitioning to Lady here. This boss just dies so fucking quick, as you're about to see right here. Really, every time I see myself cast Immolate before I cast Chaos Bolt, I fucking cringe. Should not do that. That is a little unfortunate that I did do that, but I definitely want to cast Chaos Bolt off cooldown, maybe put Incinerate on after. or Immolate, I mean. I also recast Immolate, as you can see, which was just a waste. This boss is about to die. Should have been spamming Incinerate. Still able to get a 99 parse and do fat damage, but could have been better. Flipping on to Gelihast, this is definitely a weird boss with all the transition phases. You want to maximize your DPS before he transitions. As you can see, I'm not even casting Immolate at all in this phase. I'll probably cast it during the transition phase and get my dots rolling on him. He doesn't really take any damage, but it's just to prepare for when he does take damage. Here, obviously, we have the Gauntlet. I think everybody knows about that. We're just going to be focusing on dodging Murlocs. Boss can't take any damage, so I am just putting dots on him so it can start ticking when he is actually taking damage here. As soon as he comes up, we want to be in a position where, I can pump. You see me standing still here to get this Chaos Bolt off, to get a little knockback there, but I think it was worth it. Barely took any damage. It's imperative to keep that Lake of Fire debuff on that you just saw me put, which comes from your Rain of Fire. It's a rune. And as you can see, we're kind of pumping this boss down here. Now again, unfortunately, he has these transition phases every time. I don't run instant corruption, so I use these transition phases to put corruption on him again, so he takes that ticking damage as soon as he's vulnerable. But in the meantime, I'm just focusing on doing the mechanics, dodging the Murlocs here. As soon as he yep, I got the Lake of Fire down. As soon as he comes available, we want to start pumping him. Chaos Bolt was off cooldown, should be our first cast. We also want to try to keep our Incinerate fire damage buff up during the transition phase. As you can see, I was casting it before he was vulnerable. That is the reason why. And the Lorgus here. This pull was very scuffed for me. As you can see, this Tide Priest dies so quick. They want us to target Skull, but dies so quick I couldn't even get a Chaos Bolt cast off. So I switched to the guy, but that went a little bit south as he came. I pulled aggro. Lost a lot of damage in this opening phase of this boss here. Probably should have been focusing the Murlocs or something as a caster, as I can only get about 2 casts off from these Tide Priests before they die. As soon as the boss comes out, we're going to focus him. Same rotation as always. Get our fire debuffs up on him, Lake of Fire. Spam Chaos Bolt off cooldown. And make sure we keep our dot rolling on him. Same scenario as phase 1. this lightning totem that we need to switch to right now. As you can see, I can maybe get one cast off on that. It dies so quick. Probably should just hit the Blackfathom Elite, maybe even Lorgus during that phase. Yes, you take a lot of damage, but it dies so quick, I maybe get hit twice by it. Our healers are pretty good, so not too worried about it, but the rest is history, just like the other bosses here. We're going to hit our Chaos Bolt off cooldown, keep our Immolate dot rolling. Should have been cast in that Lake of Fire here. That fell off for too long. I need a weak aura to track that. Really haven't had an opportunity to set up my UI to be efficient quite yet, but we're going to kill this boss. Easy peasy. Transition to Kelris. Kelris is known as a hard boss in this raid, I guess you can say, but with our group, obviously, we have the damage to just melt him. All of our range are spread. I'm starting the boss like I always do, getting those fire debuffs out so I can start pulling maximum damage here. If you do have to move at all on this boss, say he targets you with the circle that you have to move from, I would suggest casting Agony. Again, I don't run with instant corruption, and Agony's overtime damage from the one cast is going to be more beneficial than a corruption cast. Maybe not more DPS, but more overall damage for that one cast. So I think it's worth it. With the Lake of Fire spam that I'm doing, that increases my fire damage. Every time I cast Rain of Fire, it takes about 20% of my mana. And since this boss is a little bit of a longer fight, you will get very close to running even with a, running out of mana, even with a group that pumps as hard as this group does. So I did bring a mana pot. I did mana pot. I didn't have to life tap at all. So that's really all I needed to suffice for that. And the boss is going to go down right here. We're going to transition to this last guy here. We have our warriors building range on that ad before we pull the boss. We're going to pull it here. I cast Immolate here. Should not have casted Immolate. Again, Prio is always Chaos Bolt, then Immolate. Just a misplay, but as I took a step, you see that I cast Curse of Agony. I'm trying to position myself. For those of you who've done the boss targets someone with a breath, so I was just trying to get over to the right a little bit. Don't want to waste my time, so I'm going to cast an instant cast as I'm moving. Other than that, same thing as all the other bosses here. Same rotation. Pretty much everything applies the same. Now, he does have a transition phase here that you're going to see shortly at 50%. He does not really take any damage during this phase, so you're going to want to utilize this time to get dots up. That's why you see me actually hard casting Corruption here. Just so when he is actually taking damage, he's going to start taking that ticking effect. I probably should have waited a couple seconds, like right now, and applied the dots, so I could have got the full duration out of them and the most damage, but that's just an improvement we can make in the future. Other than that, same thing as always, we're not actually having a tank on this boss, we just have a warrior with a two-hand weapon tanking it. So we're not clearing any stacks, we're hard focusing the boss, and he's going to go down momentarily. Alright guys, kind of one of the last things I wanted to do before I close off this video is kind of talk about my talents I'm running, my gear, my consumables, and the runes I run. So I know I'm going to get a lot of questions on that. I'd like to break it down for you guys. So let's go over the gear first, kind of show you what I got. I could use a better head, could use a better neck, really good shoulders. That's a good back, but there is a better option. Robe, very good. Bracers, very good. Staff, obviously that is huge. Wand is biz as well. Trinkets, I really need the trinket off the last boss. I'm missing quite a bit of spell power from just missing out on that trinket. Ring, there's a ring off Kelris. I unfortunately did not win. It did drop. I didn't get it. It's also much better than that ring. Boots are great. Pants are pretty good, but there is a better option off of the last boss. Belt is very solid. I believe there's one better option, but it barely beats it out. Hands, these are the best slot hands. So as you can see, we still have a couple pieces we really need to work on replacing. Ideally, if I am in all BIS gear, I'm looking at about 40 more spell power than I currently have, which is actually huge. It's going to make a huge difference once we do get BIS, but kind of shows you we were able to do the damage that we did. Yes, we have great gear, don't get me wrong, but we are far from BIS. There's some better options out there. To go over the runes, you can kind of see them up. This is going to be your standard rune build, pretty much for PvE in general. You're going to run Incinerate. Pretty much always run Incinerate. There's not a better option. Chaos Bolt synergizes so well with Incinerate and Lake of Fire, which we'll talk about here in a second, but definitely want to run Chaos Bolt. It just beats out the Shadow build by a lot right now. And then lastly, on your chest, you want to run Lake of Fire. Now, Lake of Fire, let's read that tooltip. When you cast Rain of Fire, and I'll kind of show you here, it leaves a patch on the ground. That patch makes the enemy take 40% increased fire damage. 40%. You know, that's very huge. The one downside to this rune is Lake of Fire costs a considerable amount of mana, about 20% of your mana in a cast. So, like you guys saw here in the video, we melted the bosses so quick, it really wasn't a factor. If you're in a pug group and, you know, unfortunately your kind of DPS is a little bit lackluster and you're not able to keep that Lake of Fire sustained at least for about half the fight, I would suggest moving on to Demonic Tactics for that 10% bonus crit. But just without a doubt, Lake of Fire is a million times better. It's going to make you perform much better if you're able to keep this debuff up. Kind of depends on your group though, unfortunately. Now to go through my talents real quick, I run full destruction. Some people put 5 out of 5 corruption, so you get an instant cast corruption. I really think it's kind of a waste of a global. Doesn't compare to the DPS on Incinerate, Chaos Bolt, Immolate with the bonus fire damage that we're getting out of those runes and some of the gear that we have. So I go straight destruction. This is what it looks like here. I run 5 out of 5 Cataclysm, 5 out of 5 Bane. Although this really isn't beneficial too much, neither one of these are really that great. Now a lot of people don't run Improved Fire build. I run Imp on every single boss, and the reason why is because all those fire damage multipliers I just talked about. Your Imp actually benefits from that bonus fire damage you get from Incinerate, which you get 25% increased damage from Incinerate and 40% from your Lake of Fire. With Improved Firebolt, your cast goes from 2 seconds to 1 second, so you literally double your DPS, your Imp's DPS I should say, with running this talent. It is huge, it is very slept on. I don't see a lot of people run this talent. I would highly suggest running this and trying out the Imp with those multipliers. I put a point in Shadow Burn really just to kill the boss last second, get a bonus, you know, 150, 200 damage out of him right when he's about to die. I do believe it's worth it over 1% more crit, but either way, it's probably pretty close. And lastly, run Devastation. You want to run 3 out of 5 here, because that's all the points we have left. So that's my talent build. Showed you the gear, runes. Last thing I want to show you is the consumables. Number 1, bring a Shadow Protection Potion to your raid. It's going to make the second to last boss trivial. It's huge. Basically gives you a whole nother life on that boss. So please bring one of those. It's going to make it much better for all of you. This is the food I eat only because it's so cheap. It just gives you 6 stam and spirit. I believe there's an MP5 food that would be better. I don't necessarily know I would recommend this food. It's just what I bought. It's very cheap, and none of the food buffs are, you know, extraordinary at this level. Elixir of Wisdom, I do not use this at all. I actually thought it would stack, but it does not stack with Mage buff, unfortunately. So Wisdom, I don't really use at all. Elixir of Firepower, I always use. Bonus fire damage, 10 bonus fire damage, so pretty huge. Basically having 10 more spell power on one of your pieces of gear. Definitely want to have this running at all times. Now we don't run with a mage, so I have to bring Scrolls of Intellect. Fun fact, in this phase, mages give a 7 intellect buff. They increase your intellect by 7. The scroll actually increases it by 8, so it is certainly better. Obviously very minuscule amount. I wouldn't go that extreme. I really just buy them for the fact that we don't have a mage and I want that buff. Lastly, we have our world buffs, of course. You have the Dark Moon Fair buff, which gives you 10% increased damage, and the Boon of Blackfathom buff, which comes from the raid, gives you bonus speed, bonus spell damage. It is pretty huge. Definitely want to be world buffed up. Last thing I run is the Silver Wing Battle Hymn. This comes from the Ashenville event. You can get Outrider's Mark, I believe it's called. Kind of looks like, don't have an example, it looks like a Warsong token, Warsong Gulch token. It gives you a quest, you turn it in, it gives you one of these bad boys. You can use it every week. It's just 5% bonus damage. Why not take it, right? So again, those are the consumables, my gear, my talents, my runes. I hope this answers any of the questions that you guys may have. If you guys like the video, please drop a like, please subscribe, please comment. Let me know what videos you'd like to see in the future. I'm thinking about potentially doing a abyss list, maybe a boss by boss breakdown, or a full out destruction guide, or warlock guide in general. So if you're interested in seeing any of that or anything else, please comment below, let me know. I appreciate you all tuning in, and good luck out there.